And the tape lasts an hour. Right. It is the 15th of October 2011. Can you tell me your name, please?
It's Ian Kenneth Hunter.
And your date of birth?
It's June the 9th, 1961.
And your place of birth?
Burscough.
What were your parents' names?
Kenneth Hunter and Margaret Veronica Hunter.
What was your mother's maiden name?
It's Riley.
Okay. What did your dad do?
He was an HGV driver.
And who did he drive for?
R. Barker and Sons at Burscough.
Right. And did you ever go with him at all?
Yeah.
Were you interested in what he was doing?
I used to go out all the time. I could drive an HGV at 10.
Yeah.
Which caused some fuss at school when I stole the bus.
So where were you going when you were stealing the bus?
We were coming home from school and it's when Trevor Road School was turned into a large comprehensive, and it rose from 500 to 1,200 pupils in a term, and they were building new classrooms, and they left the people doing the work had left the bus outside.
Yeah.
So me and some friends jumped on, I started it up and took it round onto school playing fields. It didn't go down very well with the school.
So how did your dad start with the lorries?
Me grandparents were barge people. They used to move cotton and coal from Liverpool to Manchester, and then in the probably about in the late 30s, his dad, my granddad, started driving for Elsie's Biscuits when they bought a factory in Burscough, and my dad used to go as the second man.
So whereabouts were Elsie's?
It's known as TRM paper now in Red Cat Lane.
Right.
And which has a good name, which I can tell you about if you want the story about that.
Yeah.
People used to write postcards to people who lived in Pink Pussy Lane, and that used to get from wherever to there because everyone knew it as Pink Pussy Lane. Yeah. But Elsie's were based where TRM is because the railway used to have a railway line running into the actual factory, and they used to load up the biscuits and send them out on the railway lines. And then obviously over time that's now gone, and it's just a paper making factory now.
Right.
But that's where my mum used to work. She was on the line there.
Yeah.
And that's where my dad met my mum, and she was on the line at Elsie's Biscuits. Or it used to be known as, not Elsie's Biscuits, before that it was, I can't remember the name of it.
But don't worry.
No, my dad will know that.
Yeah. Which firm did your granddad work for?
He worked for it was Elsie's Biscuits. And I think he stayed in Elsie's Biscuits all his working life.
So he was on the barges?
He was on the barges.
Yeah.
But then they started moving I think it was after the First World War, they started slowly demising.
Right.
And wagons and vehicles were taking over, till eventually it wasn't profitable to move on the barges, so they come off the barges and started in things like transport.
Was he on the Leeds Liverpool?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you say he went from Liverpool to wherever?
Manchester.
To Manchester.
And then Manchester back to Liverpool.
So how did you get to Manchester on the Leeds Liverpool?
It used to go up the you go up as far as Leeds, and then it branch off onto, is it the bridge? Not the Bridgewater. There's a canal links up.
The Aaron Calder, is it?
Yeah, I think so. It links up to that.
Yeah.
But they used to take coal from Manchester or from Yorkshire into Liverpool, and then they used to take raw cotton the other way, back up again. Another job was the night soil out of Liverpool.
And what was night soil?
That was the chamber pots and one of the reasons why they took it to Burscough was Burscough's one of the few places on the Leeds Liverpool Canal where the actual fields are lower than the canal. So the canal's built up above the fields, so they can easily offload from the barges into carts and away.
And that would be spread on the fields?
That would be spread on the fields, and so it was known as night soil.
Yeah.
Name for it.
Yeah. I know there's various companies that used to do that. From cities all over, you know.
Yeah.
What was your mother's occupation?
We used to work at Elxie's Biscuits. We used to make the biscuits and pack the biscuits and work on the biscuit line. And then then she went to the hospital working as a cleaner. And then when Margaret Thatcher's new wave of Britain come in and they started making the cleaners work harder, and they reduced the number of cleaners, made them responsible for 3 wards instead of 1. So he decided it was time to get out. So she went back then to Elxie's Biscuits, where at that time that was known as Westbrook Packaging. So she went back to there and she worked there then for 20 years until she got she had to leave through illness.
Right. Can you remember your first day at school? Or which school did you go to?
I can remember parts of my school, but I went to Burscough Methodist School.
Yeah.
When we used to live in Burscough town then, not the village.
That's up towards Ormskirk.
That's up towards Ormskirk, and we lived in Manor Gardens, which was one of the first, I think one of the first builds, or very close to being the first build, council estates. And but we used to I remember getting the bus from Burscough to school. And we used to get into school we used to catch the 8:30 bus. I think the head teacher then was Mr. Todd, and I think he'd been the head teacher since. Seemed to be the head teacher for hundreds of years. He was still the head teacher up until I think the 1980s. It was, it was but I remember the school. It was built around the church.
Yeah. So whereabouts is the Methodist
It's in
church?
Orrell Lane.
Right.
And it was, I think it was built around 1860, 1870, just after one of the Reform Acts when education became compulsory.
Was it a big school or not?
No.
How many people did it have in it?
I think it's still a small school, probably about 100, 150 pupils.
Right, yeah.
There was the classrooms were at the back of the church, and I can remember there was I can't remember. There was 2 buildings, and then they added a third, like a porter cabin. And I think that porter cabin's still there, to be honest. It's been there for a long, long time.
Yeah. So how were your classes set out?
It was set out into. It wasn't like it was then, where you had year 1, 2, and 3. You had infants, and then you had your, and then it was like Mrs. Such and Such's class, Mrs. Such and Such's class. But I remember it was nearly all female teachers. There was very few male teachers. I think the only male teacher was Mr. Stone. He was the headmaster. Yeah. All the rest was all women teachers. Yeah. And they used to have mums helping them, and they'd be like classroom assistants. And then the dinner times, it was very strange, because at dinner time there was no actual meal. There was no way to have your dinner on site. You had to go down to the school canteen, which was situated next to Burscough football ground. So you had to go in your class groups to that hut, and it's still there now. I think it's now the Burscough Football Club canteen and curiosity shop. I always remember that though. I remember some of the food they had.
Yeah.
I can remember they used to do chocolate pudding with mint sauce, and you used to kill for that.
Yeah.
And especially when you became a table monitor, when you could sort of dish the slices out. So you always kept it was chocolate cake with mint sauce. You always had a big piece for yourself. And they used to do another one with like mince meat in like a pie with gravy. That was lovely, that. But the food was actually cooked on site. It was cooked there by the dinner ladies. Yeah. It wasn't brought in. It wasn't processed. It was proper fresh food. Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of people, they think of school dinners and it's like stodgy puddings and watery cabbage and all the rest of it. I mean, you're saying you did have some stuff.
The food was nice.
You enjoyed, yeah.
They had some good cooks, some really old school cooks.
Yeah.
And you had some really good quality food, there was none of this stodgy stuff. I can't remember any stodgy stuff at school. No. You had proper custard that was custard. You'd have Manchester tart. That was another one.
What was that?
That was custard, layer of pastry, layer of jam, custard with coconut on top and
Right.
banana
Yeah.
on top of that. And again, that was another sweet that you would kill for, you know.
Yeah.
But you always had milk on the table.
Mhm.
You know, we used to have milk every morning.
Did you have bottles?
We had little, like, I remember they were like half-pint bottles or quarter-pint bottles.
Third, I think.
Third of a bottle.
Third, yeah.
And then later on they went to cartons.
Mm.
But they were bottles, and I think that, I mean, I left the school in 1973, but I think a couple of years after that, they stopped under Margaret Thatcher, because she became known then as Thatcher the milk snatcher, because she stopped fresh school milk.
Mm.
Well, and they stopped delivering it into schools. But you always had a milk breakdown in the morning.
Mm. Can you remember who your teachers were, their names?
Mrs. Lyon was one, but I can't remember the other. I can remember the secondary school teachers, but the primary school teachers I can't.
Yeah.
You know, but I can remember more of the primary school, what we used to do, than the secondary school. You know,
Yeah.
I think the secondary school was more work, whereas at primary school we used to have a bit of fun time. You know.
Yeah.
And you used to have a good play time where you get your games out, you know, play your games in the yard.
Yeah. Did you use pencils or pens when you were?
Pencils.
Yeah.
And we had a spell where we'd have to write in pencil one way, turn the book around, and then they'd give you a pen to write over the pencil.
Right.
So you get double the hit on the books.
Yeah.
That was a time of, I think at the time was also we had the 3-day week and they tried messing around with the clocks. So it was very dark. It seemed to be dark in the mornings at school. You know, I can remember it being dark in school.
Yeah.
But with all things like that, we having to use books twice, but it was mainly pencils.
So when you got older, through the junior school, did you go to pens then?
Yeah, I went to fountain pens.
Yeah.
You know.
Were they them blue platinum
Yeah.
pens? That
Yeah.
was like a long stalk.
Long stalk on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looked like a quill without the feather. Yeah.
You'd have a cartridge to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to go and get the cartridge from the teacher.
Yeah.
And put the cartridge in, but they seem to like you writing in ink as opposed to writing with a pen.
Yeah.
Because it was the way you used to hold the pen.
Yeah.
You know, there's always an emphasis on neat handwriting and spelling.
Can I ask if you're right or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Did you know anybody in your class who was left-handed?
Yeah, there was a lad called William Wilberts or something. William. It was something like, he had a funny name, but it down to W's. And I always remember he used to count bricks. He was probably bullied actually at school, but at the time you didn't recognise it for what it was.
But being left-handed, was he made to write with his right hand or not?
No, I think he was left.
Yeah.
He kept left-handed.
Yeah, because there was a point where if you were left-handed, it was like a crime.
It's like a crime where they make you write with your right hand. Yeah.
But when you were there, it wasn't.
I think actually, you come think of it. I think when I was younger, there was incidents of that where people were made to write with the right hand. You know, I remember I think a couple of girls were made to write with the right hand. You know.
Yeah.
But it said that's something I couldn't give you more than that. I just knew they were told to write with the right hand. You know, that people write with right hands, not left.
Yeah.
Remember that one.
I mean, I'm left-handed, and it's like spider scroll. You know? We were never made to write with the right hand.
They don't seem to make things, do they? Well, then they do now, but then everything was right-handed, you know.
Yeah.
Everything was for the right hand.
You know, you can get left-handed pens.
Yeah.
Ink pens, the way the nibs are cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I think part of that was for where they used to make them write with the right hand.
Yeah.
Because if they wrote with the left hand, it would destroy the pen nib.
Yeah.
The pen nib would end up broke but you used to have your own pen, because once you started writing with it, the pen seemed to develop into your hand. You know, if you tried, anyone else got your pen, you would scratch and scrape, or the nib would twist. It's like shaving. No, don't touch my razor.
How much What did you do in games?
We used to have loads of games.
Yeah.
But British Bulldog, that was always a favourite.
So what was that?
That was the whole school would be involved in that.
How did you play that?
Someone would be the Bulldog, and you'd start at one end of the playground, and this one person would be in the middle, and you'd all charge forward, and he'd tag people, and as he tagged the person, they would become like his bulldogs, and then eventually there'd be half the school and just a couple of people trying to get through. But that they didn't like you playing that in school because it was deemed to be because you would end up sometimes with noses that were bloody and cuts and bruises because some people would take it too far. They would scrag you by the ear. Another one we used to play was tick, and then we'd play hide and seek, which was you could play that at the Methodist school because there was lots of places where you could hide. And then there's games where you couldn't stand on cracked stone, or you'd have to dodge the shadows. You couldn't stand in a shadow. And then obviously there was football. We used to play football and cricket, but again football was frowned upon because there's a number of windows that used to get broke. And it was like kick the ball, smash, and you'd all run then, trying to blame some poor lad who's probably never kicked a ball in for a week, But there was some good games then. The girls used to play things like that where they used to set a grid out, hopscotch,
was it?
Hopscotch, and they get skipping ropes out.
Yeah.
You'd be able to do skipping ropes, and then the favourite one was where the girls used to play toss. They'd do like I think they called it toss up, where they'd toss up against the wall, and that was always a favourite with the boys. Until the teachers would catch on what you were doing, and then they'd chase you off and make the girls wear shorts.
So what were they doing?
All the lads were gogging at the girls' underwear as they topped up. The skirts would fall down, and the lads would stand there. And then obviously at the time you didn't know what it was. We just knew it was.
What were they doing then? Just sort of standing on their hands with their feet against
and it was who could get their hands and straight and that. It was a really strange. Obviously the lads would. Only time the lads would play that would be that for that reason,
Yeah.
Another one was where you'd have to try and kiss a girl to get kissed, and she'd have to chase you to, So we used to play lots of little games like that. Then there was marbles. That was always a favourite.
So how did you play marbles? Because I know there's several ways of doing it.
We used it was a game I could never fathom myself. I could never fathom how you could play marbles and end up starting off with a bag of marbles and going home with none, and then telling your mum, can you buy me some more marbles, I've lost all mine today. But they'd start off, if I remember correctly, you'd have a big marble in the middle and you'd have to flick your marble against it, but I can't remember how you used to do it after that, because it was a game that I used to play, but I could never understand the rules. I could just never seem to understand how to play marbles. And then September you play conkers. And you'd find ingenious ways to. Your dad would tell you about when he was a kid, he had a 49er or a 59er, and he'd tell you how he did it. He baked it and soaked it in vinegar, and so you try and bake it in the oven and end up cracking it in half, or you'd soak it in vinegar and then it'd shrivel up. But you used to play conkers. That was always a favourite. That you'd play conkers for hours in the playground. In absolute hours you'd play that. You used to spend time going out looking for them. And throwing sticks up at the trees and climbing the trees, and I don't know if they still do that. I don't know if kids still do that now, or whether the PS2 and the Xbox has taken over.
I think that's half the trouble these days. You've got your computer and they just stick behind it, don't they?
Stick behind it. We were never allowed in.
Yeah.
The house. The only time we went in the house was to eat.
Yeah.
You go in for your dinner, straight out again. Go in for your tea, out again. Come in at 7 o'clock, and you'd have your bath and then bed.
So where were you playing outside?
When we lived up Burscough, we used to have a brick croft.
Right.
So we used to play in the bricky. And,
so was that an old clay pit or something?
Yeah. We used to have dares about going into the kilns.
Right.
Because the kilns were pitch dark, and there was always a tramp I think there was actually a tramp that used to live in there in the winter. But it used to kid him that he lived there all the time, and sometimes he'd snatch and eat children. So we used to dare each other to go in the kilns, and you had to stay in there for a length of time. Then we'd play King of the Castle. So someone would get on top of the clay, and then you'd have to sort of scramble your way up to snatch the flag, and they'd throw big klebs of clay at you. And then the other times we used to play on the railway, which was very dangerous, but at the time, because the cut in there, the embankment at the back of Burscough must be the best part of 40 feet. The cut in there must be 40 feet, and it was grass. So we used to get the cardboard or a tin bath, and you could start at the top and whiz down like a big ski slope, and then obviously someone would listen out for the trains coming, and God help you if your parents found you back there, because you end up getting a good hiding. But the bank in there used to be a really good playground. But we used to play in the street a lot. And then you play Kirby. That was another game we used to enjoy when we did this, playing outside.
What was that?
That was where you'd stand on a curb and you'd have to throw the ball and hit the curb and bounce it back to you.
Right.
And you got a point if you hit the curb and it come back to you. And if it didn't, then obviously the first 1 to 10 would be the champion.
Yeah.
He'd win. We used to have lots of games at night. You could literally play out all day.
Yeah.
Until it got dark. And then winter times come. Obviously, you were in at 7, 6, 5, whatever o'clock. And then it was fun games.
Yeah.
Not now. They just seem to go out. Kids nowadays, don't they? Because it's dangerous. Or
right.
But another thing you could do up Martin Gardens, you could play, and you could do it down Orrell Lane. When we were kids, you could play football in the road, because the amount of traffic was a lot less. There wasn't as many cars on the road, so you used to play football in there. And if your ball went into certain gardens, you never got it back. There used to be an old lady who used to live over the road when we lived in Orrell Lane. She used to put a knife through the ball. If your ball went in her garden, it was knifed. Simple as that. No ifs or buts. Knife in, throw back over.
Yeah.
And your dad would never say it's your own fault. You shouldn't let it go in the garden. Nowadays they'd be round there suing them. That's all the thing. It's all relative, isn't it? When the police were a lot more, the police presence was better because they were on foot.
Yeah.
They weren't in panda cars, and they didn't come from Skelmersdale. They were actually lived and based in Burscough, so they knew all the kids.
Yeah.
They knew whose sort of gang had this road or played in this area. So if any damage was done, they knew who to come looking for. And sometimes used to get literally Paddy, the old policeman, used to give you a smack round the ear roll, and send you home and tell your mum and tell your dad what I've done. So if you went home and you knew you get another one, because you wouldn't. With Paddy's it, you must have been doing something wrong. Don't do that now. It goes through the full process of the law now.
Yeah.
It's how times have changed, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you remember the policeman giving kids a clip round the ear? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had many off Paddy.
Have you?
The favourite one they used to do was we got caught throwing snowballs at the man who used to clean the streets. I think his name was Watkins, Mr. Watkins, and he used to have an electric truck, and his streets were immaculate because his job was to brush the streets, and he used to take great pride in that. Empty the bins, keep the streets clean, and we decided to throw snowballs at him one day. So obviously he's told the policeman's come, and he's gave us a choice. He says you can either go to your home, take you home, or you can have my punishment. And his punishment was to take us outside of Burscough, drop us off and make us walk home. We had to walk. At the time it seemed like miles. It was only a mile. But at the time it was like a trek through Siberia because it was that cold, But that was it. It was that was his punishment. It wasn't so much as like take him for. Nowadays it'd be deemed as assault. Then it was just throwing snowballs. But fun and games.
Do you remember Year 11 Plus?
Yeah, it was one of those tests that I failed.
Yeah.
Because we never were told we were doing the 11 Plus.
Right.
We were just given this test on this day, and then people were told either they'd passed or failed, and it was like passed or failed what?
Right.
So I wasn't quite sure what the test was for. And so I ended up going to the secondary school, whereas some people went to the grammar school.
Yeah.
And that's, I think even today I resent that because, you know, I think at the time, if I'd been told it was an 11 plus, I might have actually done better on it than I did.
So you say you just went in one day and there's a test paper on your desk or something?
Yeah, there's a...
Did you not work up to it? Did you not do anything similar before you took that?
Not that we were aware of. We weren't aware of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Obviously the teachers were aware of what it was, but it wasn't made like it is today. Your SATs children know that they're going to be sitting the SATs tests in at the end of year 6 and year 9, so they gear up for it and they're told they're going to be doing these SATs tests. Then it was just, this is 11 plus, you either passed or failed. It was, and well, I don't know if it was a passed or failed. It was either you got enough result and you were selected to go to the grammar school, or you weren't and you went to the secondary modern school.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't seem to. It didn't seem to be told what we were doing.
Because, well, I don't know, when it was going, all the time it was going, there was always some sort of stigma about failing, if you like, the 11 plus.
Yeah, if you failed 11 plus. And I'm wondering if that's why they didn't tell us it was an 11 plus, because there'd be no stigma. If you didn't know you sit in a test, people could say, well, you failed that one, you must be thick, you know.
Yeah.
You know, but it's always a source out of resentment, because I never knew it was sitting the 11 plus, you know. But I can remember my first days at secondary school quite well, though.
So, when did you go to secondary school?
1972.
Right. And this was Trevor Road, wasn't it?
This was Trevor Road then. There was only I think it was only about 450 pupils then. And I remember going dressed, and I can remember it now. I had a brown briefcase, and I felt very proud of my brown briefcase, because everyone seemed to have briefcases then.
Yeah.
You know, and you had your shirt and your tie on, and your new shoes.
Yeah.
And your trousers and your blazer.
I presume this was the first time you'd worn proper uniform. When you were at primary school, junior school, you just went in. Somewhat casual, but smart. It's smart but casual.
You see some of the pictures when we were kids.
Yeah.
When we were little, and you think we were Fagin's children. You know, it was hand-me-downs, and God help you if your older siblings were sisters.
Yeah.
That looks like a cocktail dress. But yeah, it was the first time you had to wear like a formal school uniform, and I think I remember right, particularly hard on my mum, because there was 4 of us going in. So I went in. My brother was already there. I went in 72. My brother went in 74, and my sister would have gone in 78.
Right.
77, 78. So there was always they all seemed to be buying school uniforms, you know.
Yeah. And then you all went to Trevor Road, did you?
Yeah, went to Trevor Road.
Yeah.
And I think the head teacher then was a Mr. Stone, J.B. Stone. And he was a good head teacher from what I can gather, you know. It was and that then the school, they would wear the assemblies. You'd had assembly every morning, and it was a full assembly. It wasn't like it is now where they seem to pay lip service to religion.
Yeah.
It was a full assembly, you know. You had to do your morning prayers. You did a song. And they read out anything that was happening in the school. Anyone who was won awards, they would get presented with the awards. And but the teachers would then wear the full gown. Yeah. With their mortarboards. Mortarboards. They'd wear the full gown. Because I always remember, as we got older, you start getting a bit more. And I always remember one of the lads. I think it may have been Eddie Sarbut or Mark Dowding, as he was coming up the aisle, with his gown flowing behind him, he stepped on it and nearly strangled the head teacher. You know, he got 6 of the best for that, and the 6 of the best were delivered on the stage, in front of the whole school. Yeah. There was no preliminaries about that. It was delivered on the stage in front of the whole school. He got 6 of the best for that.
Did that happen a lot when you were there?
Yeah. Cane. I mean, you could get the cane on either your bottom or your hand. Yeah. And I think girls were giving it on the girls were. I think they were given the slipper.
Yeah.
I don't think they were given the cane. If they did, it was on their hand. It was never.
Right.
It was never done on the bottom.
But so what sorts of things were they given the cane for?